Eli Wallach wasn't a household name until his unforgettable role as Calvera in The Magnificent Seven. He quickly captivated audiences with charm and menace, but Eli Wallach's iconic role in The Magnificent Seven came with a heavy price. Behind the success were struggles that shaped his life in ways few expected. Eli Wallach wasn't just another actor in Hollywood. He was a master of subtlety, known for his deep character work and unique presence. But before he stepped onto the dusty sets of The Magnificent Seven, Wallach was far from a household name. He built a solid career in theater and character roles, quietly respected but largely under the radar. Then came Calvera, the ruthless leader of the bandits, a role that shot him into the spotlight overnight. What's striking is how Wallach transformed Calvera from a typical villain into a complex, magnetic figure. His performance was electric, the kind of villain audiences couldn't look away from. But with that fame came a price. The role that made him unforgettable also boxed him in, creating a shadow he'd struggled to escape for years. Behind the camera, Wallach's world changed overnight. The industry suddenly saw him not as a versatile actor, but as that bandit guy. Typecasting began to limit the variety of roles offered to him. The charm he brought to Calvera, what should have been an asset, turned into a kind of curse, locking him into villainous roles that didn't reflect his full talent. But there was more to the story than just fame and typecasting. The intense pressure, the breakneck pace of shooting, and the weight of sudden celebrity wore on Wallach in ways few understood. The job that elevated his career also strained his personal life, creating tensions that rippled far beyond the screen. Wallach's journey with The Magnificent Seven is a story about the double-edged nature of success in Hollywood, a reminder that sometimes the roles we crave the most come with hidden costs. And for Eli Wallach, those costs weren't just professional, they were deeply personal, leaving marks that would last long after the cameras stopped rolling. Long before The Magnificent Seven made Eli Wallach a star, his career was a steady climb built on hard work and undeniable talent. Unlike the flash-in-the-pan celebrities, Wallach started out in the theater, earning respect on Broadway and honing his craft in character roles that demanded nuance and depth. But despite his skill, Hollywood hadn't yet offered him a role that would really shine a spotlight on him. Wallach's early years were marked by a willingness to take on anything, supporting roles in films, guest spots on TV shows, and countless stage performances. This range showed off his versatility, but didn't translate into big-name fame. He was often cast as secondary characters, the guy who added texture to the story but rarely got the center stage. In many ways, Wallach's pre-Magnificent Seven career was like the quiet before the storm. He built the solid foundation, but the industry hadn't yet recognized just how magnetic his presence could be. He was known among industry insiders as dependable and talented, but the mainstream audience didn't know his name. That all changed when the role of Calvera came knocking. It was a chance to break out of the shadows and step into a larger, more visible world. The part offered him the opportunity to bring his full intensity and charisma to a major Hollywood production, something he'd waited years for. What's interesting is how Wallach embraced Calvera, not as a simple villain, but as a character with layers, charm, and wit. This was a role that allowed him to show off the full range of his talent, something many actors spend a lifetime chasing. The role of Calvera wasn't just a career milestone. It was the moment when Wallach truly emerged into the spotlight. But with this rise came new challenges, and the very success that seemed like a blessing soon revealed itself to be a mixed bag. Wallach's quiet climb had prepared him for hard work, but it hadn't prepared him for the fallout that would follow such a high-profile role. The next chapter of his story would show just how complicated fame could be. The story of how Eli Wallach landed the role of Calvera is as fascinating as the character itself. When The Magnificent Seven was casting, the filmmakers wanted a villain who was more than just a bad guy. They needed someone who could be charming, unpredictable, and magnetic. Wallach fit that bill perfectly, but getting the part wasn't a straightforward journey. At the time, Wallach was still relatively unknown to mainstream audiences, though highly respected in acting circles. The producers took a risk casting him against the more established stars like Yul Brynner and Steve McQueen. Yet, Wallach's audition blew everyone away. He brought a spark to Calvera that made the bandit leader feel real. Dangerous but oddly charismatic, the kind of villain you love to hate. Once cast, Wallach threw himself into the role, knowing this could be his big break. On set, he worked tirelessly to give Calvera a distinctive edge, a mix of humor, menace, and unpredictability that made the character unforgettable. His performance was electric and breathed new life into what could have been a typical antagonist. But this role would come with consequences Wallach hadn't anticipated. The sudden spotlight that shone on him was both exhilarating and blinding. While many actors dream of landing a part that defines their career, Wallach would soon discover that defining roles can sometimes become traps. As filming wrapped and the movie hit theaters, Wallach's Calvera became an instant icon. Fans loved him, critics praised his performance, and Hollywood buzzed with talk about the breakout villain. But behind the scenes, the actor faced the emerging challenge of typecasting, a shadow looming over his future roles. This casting triumph was the turning point, not just in Wallach's career but in his life. The role of Calvera was about to shape everything that followed, both the dazzling highs and the difficult lows. Eli Wallach's performance as Calvera wasn't just a hit, it was a phenomenon. Audiences couldn't get enough of the slick, dangerous leader of the bandits, and Wallach's face was suddenly everywhere. But what felt like a breakthrough quickly started to feel like a cage. The spotlight that had turned Wallach into a star also trapped him in a narrow box. Hollywood began seeing him as the ultimate villain, and casting directors kept offering him the same kinds of roles, shady, dangerous characters with little room for nuance. For an actor who had spent years building a wide-ranging career, this was a frustrating shift. Typecasting is a familiar story in Hollywood, but for Wallach, it was especially sharp. His portrayal of Calvera was so convincing, so magnetic, that audiences and studios alike struggled to imagine him in any other light. The charm and menace he brought to the role became a double-edged sword, limiting the diversity of parts he was considered for. This wasn't just about Wallach's career. It affected his creative fulfillment. The roles started to feel repetitive, and the challenges he once sought in acting seemed harder to find. He was no longer the versatile actor quietly mastering his craft. He was that bandit guy. The industry's narrow vision clashed with Wallach's own ambitions. He wanted to explore different characters, to prove his range beyond Calvera's shadow. But the more he fought to break free, the more Hollywood kept him locked in the villain's role. Behind the scenes, this pigeonholing created tension. Wallach faced the harsh reality that sometimes a career-defining role can become a career-limiting one. It's the paradox of fame. The very thing that brings you recognition can also hold you back. But the story doesn't end there. Wallach's struggle with typecasting was just one part of a larger battle, one that affected his relationships, his mental health, and his family life. The cost of instant fame was more than professional. It was deeply personal. Next up, the intense on-set dynamics and personal struggles that added even more pressure to Wallach's rise. The glitz and glamour of the Magnificent Seven masked a much more complicated reality for Eli Wallach. Behind the iconic scenes and memorable lines, tension simmered on set, tensions that would take a toll on Wallach both professionally and personally. Wallach shared the screen with some of Hollywood's biggest stars, Yul Brynner, Steve McQueen, Charles Bronson. While these names brought prestige, they also brought ego clashes and creative conflicts. Wallach's natural intensity sometimes rubbed co-stars and directors the wrong way. His sharp wit and independent spirit meant he didn't back down easily, and clashes were almost inevitable. These conflicts weren't just about personalities. They reflected deeper struggles. Wallach was fighting to maintain control over his character and how he was portrayed, pushing against the studio's and director's vision. It was a high-pressure environment where egos flared and creative battles played out behind the cameras. Meanwhile, the demanding shooting schedule left little time for Wallach to recharge or tend to his personal life. Suddenly thrust into the limelight, he struggled to balance his new fame with family responsibilities. His wife and children felt the strain of his long hours and public attention, and Wallach himself wrestled with the isolation fame often brings. The pressures weren't only external. Wallach grappled with the emotional weight of typecasting and the fear that this role might define and limit him forever. These fears sometimes crept into his behavior, causing frustration and moments of self-doubt that rarely made it to public view. It's a reminder that fame, especially sudden fame, isn't just about red carpets and fan adoration. For Wallach, it came with sacrifice, strained relationships, moments of loneliness, and a sense that the career-defining role was also an emotional burden. But as difficult as this chapter was, it set the stage for an even tougher reality: how Hollywood's reaction after the film would affect Wallach's career trajectory and personal life. After the Magnificent Seven exploded in popularity, you might think Eli Wallach's career would soar without limits. Instead, something unexpected happened. Many doors that seemed wide open suddenly began closing. Despite the massive success and critical praise for his role as Calvera, Wallach found himself sidelined by the very industry that had celebrated him. Studios and casting directors started to overlook him, often casting him only in villainous or minor roles. It was as if the Hollywood machine couldn't see beyond the character he had so brilliantly portrayed. This cold shoulder wasn't just a blow to Wallach's ego. It was a career setback that hit hard. He struggled to secure roles that challenged him or allowed him to display his full range. Offers dwindled, and the parts he did get rarely lived up to the potential audiences knew he had. Industry insiders whispered about Wallach being too villainous or typecast, phrases that underscored a harsh truth. Success in one role could turn into professional invisibility. It was a cruel irony. While millions admired Calvera, Wallach himself felt trapped by that admiration. This professional isolation added to the emotional weight Wallach carried. The excitement of sudden fame faded, replaced by frustration and a sense of being misunderstood. He wasn't just battling for roles, he was fighting for respect, for recognition as a versatile actor rather than a one-note villain. During this time, Wallach also faced rumors and whispers that made the situation more complicated. Unconfirmed stories about financial troubles and health concerns surfaced. Whether true or exaggerated, they contributed to an atmosphere of struggle and uncertainty around him. Yet, through it all, Wallach kept working. He didn't disappear, but the journey was far from easy. The industry's cold shoulder was a stark reminder that fame is often fleeting, and that the price of being the villain in Hollywood can sometimes be much higher than anyone expects. Next, we'll dive into Wallach's reflections years later, revealing the hidden toll this role took on him. Years after the Magnificent Seven cemented his place in Hollywood history, Eli Wallach looked back on the role of Calvera with a mix of pride and pain. In interviews and private conversations, he revealed the complex feelings that lingered beneath his iconic performance, a bittersweet legacy he never quite shook. Wallach openly admitted that while Calvera was a breakthrough, the role cost him more than he had imagined. It wasn't just about typecasting or professional limitations, it was about the emotional and personal toll the role took. The intense attention and expectations that came with sudden fame weighed heavily on him. He spoke candidly about the frustration of being pigeonholed as a villain. Wallach's passion was for rich, diverse characters, roles that allowed him to explore the depths of human nature. Instead, he was often offered parts that echoed Calvera's darkness, roles that didn't challenge him or let his true range shine. But beyond the career challenges, Wallach revealed the strain on his personal life. The long hours on set, the constant scrutiny, and the pressure to maintain his image affected his relationships with family and friends. Fame brought a spotlight not only to his work but to his private world, sometimes making it hard to find peace. He also hinted at the emotional exhaustion that came with playing such an intense, complex character repeatedly. Calvera wasn't just a role he slipped into. It demanded a deep dive into a dark psyche, something that stayed with him long after filming ended. Yet, despite these struggles, Wallach never expressed regret for taking the role. He recognized that it gave him a place in cinematic history and opened doors, even if it closed others. His reflections were tinged with acceptance, a nuanced understanding of the trade-offs fame brings. These insights add a human layer to the story, a reminder that behind every iconic character is a real person facing real challenges. Wallach's journey shows how success and sacrifice often go hand in hand, and how the roles actors play can shape their lives in unexpected ways. Coming up next, the enduring legacy of Calvera and how it both elevated and overshadowed Wallach's career. Eli Wallach's portrayal of Calvera is etched into film history. Decades later, the character remains one of the most memorable villains in the Western genre, part charming outlaw, part ruthless leader. For many fans, Calvera is the definitive Wallach role, a testament to his talent and screen presence. But this legacy came with a complicated price. Calvera didn't just make Wallach famous, it immortalized him in the collective memory of cinema lovers. Yet, this kind of legacy is a double-edged sword. While it guaranteed Wallach a place among Hollywood legends, it also meant the rest of his work often took a backseat. Interviews and retrospectives frequently focused on the Magnificent Seven, overshadowing his countless other roles that displayed a far wider range. This kind of pigeonholing is common for actors who deliver iconic performances. The public and the industry cling to that one image, sometimes forgetting the full breadth of their craft. For Wallach, it meant the role that brought him acclaim also became a kind of cage, limiting how audiences and filmmakers perceived him. Despite this, Wallach embraced the role's impact. He understood that Calvera's lasting popularity connected him with generations of fans and filmmakers. The character opened doors for Wallach to work on diverse projects later in his career, including stage work and international films, even if the shadow of Calvera loomed large. Wallach's story highlights the paradox of fame. Achieving greatness in one moment can define an actor's entire life, and not always in ways they control. His legacy as Calvera is a reminder that iconic roles shape careers and identities, sometimes at great personal cost. The role also sparked debates about the challenges actors face in Hollywood, how quickly they're judged, and how easily their potential can be boxed in. Wallach's experience serves as both inspiration and cautionary tale for anyone chasing the spotlight. Next, we'll explore some of the lesser-known rumors and stories about Wallach's life after the Magnificent Seven, adding new layers to this complex portrait. Beyond the bright lights and accolades, Eli Wallach's life after the Magnificent Seven was shadowed by whispers and rumors, some true, some exaggerated, and others never fully explained. These stories added an extra layer of intrigue to a career already marked by complexity. One persistent rumor involved Wallach's financial troubles. Despite the film's success, some sources suggested that Wallach struggled to secure steady, lucrative roles afterward, leading to money issues that affected his lifestyle. Whether fully accurate or not, these whispers painted a picture of an actor grappling with the harsh realities behind Hollywood's glamour. Then there were murmurs about health struggles, amplified by the intense physical and emotional demands of his career. Friends and insiders hinted that Wallach faced bouts of exhaustion and stress, which are compounded by the pressure of living up to his own legendary status. These struggles weren't widely publicized at the time, but have since become part of the deeper narrative around his life. Even more shadowy were the stories of personal conflicts, strained family relationships, and moments where Wallach's intense personality clashed with those around him. While much of this remained private, those close to him noted that fame and the frustrations of his career path left scars that influenced his personal world. Despite these challenges, Wallach's resilience never wavered. He kept working, took on new projects, and continued to redefine himself beyond the shadow of Calvera. The rumors and controversies, rather than breaking him, highlighted the often unseen struggles actors endure in a relentless industry. These untold stories remind us that behind every legendary role is a human being with complex battles, both public and private. Wallach's life after the Magnificent Seven was far from simple, but was also a testament to his enduring spirit. Finally, we will wrap up his journey, reflecting on what Eli Wallach's story teaches us about fame, art, and sacrifice. Eli Wallach's story is more than just a Hollywood tale. It's a powerful lesson about the highs and lows of fame and the sacrifices that come with chasing greatness. From the moment he stepped into the role of Calvera, everything changed for him, but not always in the ways you'd expect. His journey reveals the fragile balance between success and struggle. That iconic role brought him worldwide recognition, but also boxed him into a corner professionally. It showed how fame could be a double-edged sword, opening doors while closing others, granting admiration while demanding personal costs. Wallach's experience is a reminder that behind the glitz and glamour, actors often face intense pressures and hidden battles. The strain on his personal life, the frustration of being typecast, and the rumors that followed all speak to the unseen side of Hollywood fame. It's a story of resilience, how Wallach kept pushing forward, refusing to be defined by a single role or setback. But perhaps the most profound lesson is about identity and legacy. Wallach never rejected Calvera. He embraced the character's place in history while continuing to grow as an artist. His story encourages us to see beyond the surface of fame and appreciate the complexities behind the performances we love. For viewers, Wallach's life prompts a deeper understanding of what it means to be an actor and what it takes to survive in an industry that's as unforgiving as it is dazzling. It's a tale of passion, sacrifice, and the pursuit of art in the face of adversity. In the end, Eli Wallach's legacy is not just the role that made him famous, but the courage he showed navigating everything that came after. His journey remains a compelling chapter in Hollywood's history, inspiring anyone who dreams of making their mark, no matter the cost. Eli Wallach's journey shows us that behind every iconic role, there's a story of sacrifice and resilience. His role in the Magnificent Seven made him a legend, but it wasn't without its costs. If you found this story as fascinating as I did, make sure to like this video and subscribe for more deep dives into the lives of Hollywood's most unforgettable stars. Thanks for watching.